Welcome to Pathways to Aviation's Career Symposium. It's day 4 of a week-long celebration of aviation careers. We've enjoyed quite the week and can't believe we're almost 80% of the way through. We've hosted job announcements in the morning with jsfirm.com. We've hosted a career panel on various careers. We've conducted live interviews with amazing organizations. And we do this, our career tips. And just to give you a bit of foundation on this, Pathways to Aviation is a nonprofit organization which informs, inspires, and engages aviation's next generation. And we do that in a number of ways, but one of them is to bring the entire community together, from students to job seekers to mentors, industry leaders, and employers, all into a room, if you will, where they can connect. We provide information, learning, tips, ways to get involved. And our hope is also that all these types of people, all these constituents, call them what you want, stakeholders, connect by email, through chat, and then after the week is over, by phone, in person, however it works for them. What we're trying to do is advance workforce development and hiring within the aviation industry. And if we can be a catalyst to making somebody's dreams come true, whether it's a job seeker or the employer, then this week our organization has matched its goal. Today we're talking about career tips, and every day we provide a different tip. The one we chose for today is preparing for a job interview. And I think where I'd like you to position your mind is you have already applied for the job. You've been through that process. They have contacted you and said, we wish to interview you, and here is the date and time for the interview, and you have accepted that. So once you know that, this is where we take things forward. We've put on this workshop on site a number of times, and it usually takes an hour and a half to 2 hours to get through. And we've done this through our weekly workshops, and it's tough because we only give ourselves 15 minutes. We're only going to do about 12 minutes today. And last time we did this, we had 11 tips. Unfortunately for you, we now have 15. So I have broken up the job interview preparation into 2 different categories. And the first is looking at it from days or weeks out in advance of the interview. It's not common where you're going to be asked to show up at your first interview tomorrow or in 2 days. It's commonly about a week, 2 weeks, perhaps even more. So we're going to take that perspective. So how do you prepare for the job interview? The very first thing you do, the overarching thing you do, is research. Research the organization and research the position. Those 2 are vital. Now, you can research the employer any number of ways. You're smart, you can figure it out. We go to their website, we go to Google and drop their name in, and we look at everything we possibly can. And you'll get an abundance of information. We would also have you talk to any of the connections with whom you met as you were preparing to apply for the job. So if they work at that organization, reach out to them and ask them questions about the organization and the position. You'll get a great deal of feedback, a lot of tips. Review that position description, and don't just review it, but know it inside and out. What are they looking for? What skills? Yes, you applied and got the interview, but give it another look to a little bit deeper into it to see what you may have missed the first time. If they are providing instructions, at least for the interview process, follow those instructions. But know that position inside and out. You will be asked about it in the interview. As you're researching, as you're calling the contacts, as you're looking at the position description, have a sheet of paper next to you with a pen, not a computer, with a pen, writing down questions. Any question you can come up with. The more research you do, the more conversations you have, and the more reviewing that description you do, you will come up with a number of questions. Just write the questions. You will soon find out what you're going to do with those questions. Then take a look at your resume. Does it need updating? If it does, update your resume. And I'll get to that in a second, but make sure you take another look at the resume. We talked about it yesterday, but assess your social media. And this also includes your LinkedIn. Look at your LinkedIn, your Facebook, your Twitter, your Instagram. Clean it of anything that does not belong. So if your mother would not approve of you posting a message, go back and delete it. And then, like I mentioned, your LinkedIn. Like if you're going to update your resume, update your LinkedIn. Alert your references. Nobody does this. Notify them before the interview. There are two reasons. One is in those conversations, because I would do it by phone, they will ask you about why you want to apply for the job, or why you're interviewing for the job, why you want it. They might talk you through things. A couple of those references may actually work at that company, so it's great information to get. The other reason is it's courteous. And the reason it's courteous is when you have finished that interview, and if it's a good one, and you're sitting in the car or you're driving home or whatever you're doing, that employer may be calling your reference. And if they don't know that they're getting a phone call, they may be taken off guard. I get many phone calls from recruiters asking me to provide a reference for certain people. None of them ever notify me. So I have to sit and figure out, A, who that person is. I have to figure out what type of job that they were going for and do my best to provide a great reference. So when you notify the references, be sure to include the position description or the employer with which you're applying or interviewing, so that when they call, they say something to the effect of, I have been expecting your phone call. I am excited to talk to you about the person's name. And you will get the best reference ever. Even if it's slightly negative at some points, you will get the most transparent and solid reference. Notify those references. Like I said, nobody ever does it. Practice the interview questions. What interview questions will there be, you ask? I don't know. They're probably going to come out of that position description. But you can also assume that they're going to ask you about your career aspirations. What experiences have prepared you for this role at this employer? And what attributes you might be bringing to this employer. So think those through. The last one, and it's also going to be an interview question, is know your why. We talk about this a lot. Know your why for taking this job. Why do you want it? And the answer can't be, I'm desperate and I need money. Your why has to be something more on the line of your career aspirations, goals, maybe a challenge that's in front of that employer and you want to help them accomplish that goal. But know your why. You will be asked, because they're going to ask you, why do you want this job? Simple interview question, know your why. So those are 9 tips that I suggest as you prepare in advance of the interview. Now, let's talk about game day, to put a sports analogy to it. The first 2 are interchangeable in terms of timeline. But the first is grab a folder, a peachy, a nice folder, whatever you want. In that folder, you're going to place your resume, your updated resume. You're going to place the job announcement, or if you received a job description, the job description. You're also going to place in the list of questions you wrote down as you researched that company and that position. You might even highlight the ones that you want to prioritize. Then you're going to add a sheet that's a blank piece of paper. On that piece of paper, you will use it to write notes during the interview. What are you going to write with? You're also going to add a pen. Those elements go into your folder. Now, when you show up with the folder, they're going to think that you're prepared. That first impression will be like, oh my gosh, this individual is prepared for battle. Let's do this. And they're going to get excited. Even if you never open up that folder, it's okay. Appearance to set the stage speaks volumes. Now, the other one that's interchangeable from a timeline perspective is your attire. Know what to wear in advance. And it depends on the role that you're pursuing. Err on the side of confidence by dressing better than you would imagine for that position. In not every interview will I wear a coat and a tie, but I'll certainly wear them for the roles that might be in a building and roles that I really, really want. If you're a female, it's a nice dress, but ask around, ask the contacts that you have at that company, ask people in the same position within the industry, ask around, but be prepared. And with that attire, make sure it's ironed. Take it to the cleaners, let them do it, but make sure it's ironed. Now, same with the ironing, make sure that you're groomed well. Your hair, your face, you're clean, you have that appearance that maybe you just took a shower. Be clean. Okay, my favorite, arrive early. Tip number 3, arrive early. Now, I am a 15-minute kind of guy, maybe even more. I show up a little bit early, and here's what you're going to do. Now, I call it pregame. Go to the interview and pregame. Might sound funny to you, but turn on the radio and listen to some songs that get you in a good mood. Or just sit there and meditate, center yourself. Or call me or somebody and just have a quick 5 minutes. Hey, I need a pre-interview just discussion to get me in my mind ready. And then maybe review your elevator pitch. That'll help get you ready. That's something you could do on the way from the car into the building. Now, the 5th is when you go into that building, who you're going to see first. The first person you're likely going to see is the gatekeeper. Now, whether you know it or not, the gatekeeper is actually part of the interview team, or at least put that in your mind. So walk in, and a first impression with that gatekeeper is a way to open the door or close the deal. So make nicey nice with the gatekeeper, have an exchange, make that person laugh and feel comfortable with you, because when the interview's over, they're going to turn to the gatekeeper and say, wow, what did you think of this person? And you want the gatekeeper to provide a positive review of you. So get to know the gatekeeper. Now, as you're getting to know the gatekeeper, scope the building. Look at the room. Check out what's on the walls. Get a kind of a vibe for the building. See what's happening. There are reasons why you want to do this. First is, this is where you're going to be working potentially and spending up to 12 hours of your day in this building. Do you want to work there? Do you like the color, the smell? The other is, it brings additional questions to mind that you can write on your sheet and ask. They might be awards that were earned by the person with whom you're interviewing, or that the company earned. It could be photos from picnics that speak to the company's culture. There could be all kinds of things. Pay attention to those and grab some thoughts and questions and write them down. Those are clear indicators of things that you can address in that interview. So those are 15 tips. I know I did them rather quickly, but that's kind of how I roll. You can win the interview just from your preparation. The more you prepare, the better off you will be to show a good face of that interview room, good first impressions. And with all that research, you're going to be prepared to answer every question that they throw at you. And when they ask, do you have any questions? You don't respond with the worst answer on the planet, which is no. You respond with a list of questions that you have. You might say something like, wow, I am so glad you asked. I do have a number of questions. Here's my first, and then you ask that question. You have to remember that the interview is a two-way exchange. They are interviewing you as much as you're interviewing them. That's the way to look at it. Do you want to work at this place, in this position? And they have to figure out, A, if you truly want to work at that place, and if you fit in their culture, and if you'll be able to help them advance their goals, help them make more money, help them achieve their vision. So make sure that you know that it's a two-way exchange. And when you do, you'll have those questions to ask. So I hope this helps. It's key, it's critical. We even have tips for how you wrap or the post interview that are just as valid, that can win or lose the job opportunity. So take advantage of these pre-interview tips, and we hope to see you on the other side of that interview success. Appreciate you coming on board with us today. And we have a full slate of activities tomorrow, our final day. We start at 9 a.m. with Job Announce with JS Firm. Then we go into an education panel tomorrow with schools, a flight school, and an organization that provides scholarships and another educational opportunity once you're in the workplace. Then at 1 o'clock, we are actually going to interview a certified candidate who's ready for work now. I am so looking forward to that interview. And then at 3 o'clock, we're going to close with more career tips. We're going to talk about the overall job searching process. Thank you very much for joining us today and in this session, and we can't wait to see you tomorrow.